Hello and welcome to Unprofessional Engineering. My name is James.
And you got Luke.
Luke, we're now here with part 2 of Wacky Units of Measure.
Is that dose?
Dose, which is the wacky way of saying 2.
We are an international podcast, so
we are.
James. I'm going to do the rest of the podcast in Spanish.
Well done. I am going to be very impressed by that. C.
I don't know what you just
Muy
said.
bien. There we go. All right, Luke. Wacky units of measure.
Wacky units.
Part 1, for everyone who didn't listen to it, I'm sure you all did, was mostly based around units of measure for distance.
Yes.
And death. Those were kind of the 2 main themes of what we looked at. We're kind of all over the place.
We are all over the
number
place.
2 here, but I was going to start with some water stuff. Does that sound good to you?
Water, nice. I like that.
Water, because I never know, like, when we talk about broats and stuff, like, what's going on. So, numero uno, nautical mile. Do you know a nautical mile?
I'm assuming it's a mile over water, but that's too easy.
Right? Because why wouldn't that just be
like,
the way
why
it
wouldn't
is?
it be?
Measuring distances at sea, so you got that part, equal to approximately 2,025 yards. What?
That makes zero sense. Why it would be called a nautical mile?
So the nautical mile is based on the circumference of the Earth and is equal to 1 minute of latitude. It's more than like your land measurement statute mile. So 1 nautical mile equals 1.1508 normal people miles. I don't really get it, but so be it, right?
So do they use nautical miles? And I know I'm assuming that you've done elaborate research into the measurement of nautical versus non-nautical. Did they use nautical miles to measure like across a lake, or is it any body of water, or is it just the ocean?
I assume it's any body of water.
Okay.
But then again, if it's a really small body of water, maybe not.
It might not even be a mile, right?
Right. It might not be a normal person mile.
Okay.
Anywho, next, a fathom. An old-timey English measure of length, now standardized at 6 feet, which has long been used as a nautical unit of depth. So a little bit different.
Do you know what a league is?
What is a league?
A league? I don't know. I'm asking.
Oh, I do know. Oh, I thought you had that like all teed up.
I don't. I don't. Not at all.
So I have a fun story about leagues too, but league was originally intended to represent the distance a person could walk in an hour, which is weird because we always think of it as water stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in many cases, it was equal to 3 miles. At sea, the league was often equal to 3 nautical miles. So it's not exactly defined, but it sounds like a league is 3 nautical miles. But fun fact for you, Luke, 20,000 leagues under the sea. You've heard of this, right?
Yeah.
The title refers to the distance traveled under the various seas, not the depth attained. Since 20,000 leagues would be about 80,000 kilometers, that doesn't jive. Like, you can't go that deep in the ocean. This is nearly twice the circumference of the Earth. The greatest depth that is reached in the novel is 4 leagues or 16 kilometers.
I've been lied to my entire life. That was like, really?
So here's the thing. It comes back to us being Americans and bad at stuff. So really what happened is, if you look at the original book's title in French, it would be translated literally or correctly to 20,000 leagues under the seas. So kind of implying that you're traveling under the seas versus going a depth under a sea.
I gotcha.
Way to go, America.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's that. And last but not least is a knot. So something to do with the speed traveling in the
I'm
seas,
assuming, right?
So a knot is 1 nautical mile per hour. So basically 1 knot equals 1.15 miles per hour. The term knot dates back to the 17th century when sailors, this is interesting, sailors would measure the speed of their ship by using a device called a common log. This device was basically a rope with knots tied in it, uniformly spaced knots attached to a piece of wood shaped like a slice of pie. And that's kind of like how they measured the distance then.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting.
So I have, they're not ocean and or lake measurements, but these are volume or liquid measurements. I'm not sure if you have any of these, so I can kick off
let's hear some of them. Yeah.
So the first one, and I remember this one from back in the day, it's a pony. And a pony is equal to 1 U.S. fluid ounce of specifically liquor.
I like ponies.
And I remember, like, I never knew why they were called that, but back in the day, they were called pony boys. They were like little beer bottles, and they called them pony boys. And I'm guessing it's related to, but these are more than 1 fluid ounce, so I'm not sure why
they were like 5 or 7.
Yeah, they were small. They were really small beers, and like little barrels with little.
I know Rolling Rock made a lot of them. Those were the only ponies that I ever had.
Yeah, they called them pony boys.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting from a volume standpoint. Next one.
Hold on, real quick. At Penn State, if you went to the Rathskeller, which is no more, which is a shame, it was a total dump, like hole in the wall, like cave looking thing. But you could basically have a case race where they would sell you an entire case of Pony Boys, and then you would see who could drink all of them quickest, which is not condoned. Kids, I don't advise. Don't
do this.
That's right.
Even if you're of age.
Correct.
All righty. My next few, a Hogs Head. So I think you probably saw this one.
Yes.
A Hogs Head was 63 gallons of liquid. And I saw some story.
Wine, usually.
Yeah, it's usually wine. And the reason why it's 63 gallons, and I wasn't able to verify this, but they would use the head of a hog as like a wine skin. So imagine if you skinned a hog and you took its face off, Hannibal Lecter style, right? And you would see, and they would use it as like a wine skin to hold the wine. And it I guess like this had to be a huge hog.
Oh, absolutely.
But that's 63 gallons. You go up one. If you take 2 hogs heads,
this makes no sense. Go ahead.
It equals a butt. Which
does equal a butt.
I don't understand. No,
sort of.
You're right. It's not exact because I think 2 hogs heads is 120,
145,
something like somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah, the double hogs head is 145, but that doesn't add up to 2, which would be what, 126.
Something
but a
like
butt
that.
is like 132.
Yeah.
So a butt's a real thing.
It is a real
buttload.
Thing. And that's where, you have a buttload of whatever. That's what it means. It's a lot of whatever. And then my last one.
Okay.
When I read this one, there was a picture of Gregory Peck, which I thought was funny.
Yes.
And this is a Peck. This is a unit of dry volume. So we're switching from liquid to dry. This is a dry volume that is equal to 2 gallons or 8 dry quarts. So imagine if you had like a 2-gallon container and you put a whole bunch of seeds in it, you would have a peck of seeds or a peck of corn or a peck of whatever it is. So.
I love that I know what list you are looking at because of the description of the picture, especially because the one that it listed butt as well. And there is a picture of someone's butt next to it, which is just outstanding.
I think it's funny. Like in all this research, like you could tell like one person did research probably about like 12 years ago.
And then other people stole it.
Yes. Everybody stole it. And then we repurposed it.
Right. Repurposed. I love that. Before we go any further, Luke, I didn't really start my clock on time, but I think it's time for us to take a break for a word from our sponsor.
What was the name of that dive bar up in Penn State?
The Rathskeller.
Sponsored?
They're out of business.
No.
So maybe they tried to sponsor us, but they just couldn't do that. We don't have a sponsor. If you'd love to sponsor us, why don't you email us and tell us so? But we do have some shout outs. Numero uno. See?
Spanish theme.
Abalash S says, I found your podcast after searching for a podcast about deep sea exploration, and I have been hooked ever since. Luke, if you remember correctly, our deep sea exploration episode we recorded live at Tech Shop, which is now out of business. It's probably our worst audio and probably our least watched episode of all.
The fact that he came back is amazing.
I love it. So he must love these other episodes. One idea that he had for another episode is saturation divers, which is very interesting. I had to Google what it is.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, well, you should Google it, Luke. I absolutely love the podcast, so keep up the great and everlasting work.
Oh,
that is
thank you.
Everlasting until we quit paying SoundCloud to host it. But anyways, Thomas N has also written in. He's been listening for 4 months, now 5 months because it took me so long to get back to the email, and says it took this long to write and say hi. So it took me just as long, basically, to write back and say hi. He's just graduating high school, and he's headed to Texas at Austin for applied mathematics as the major.
Way more money than an engineer. Good idea.
This is true. Way bigger brain. And like, geez, that's scary. I told him Diffie Q's where I ended, and I didn't want to go any further than that.
So when he gets there, wait in line at Franklin Barbecue for one of their briskets, because he's in Austin, and send us a brisket.
Absolutely send us a brisket. Maybe, I don't know how that'll work, but I am in. All right. Well, hopefully you all want a shout out. If you want some stickers, if you want to suggest some topics, if you want to tell us some more crazy units of measure that we missed, if you want to just comment on how sweet sounding my voice is, it's like honey, why don't you email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com.
Or if you just want to sit around and wait for an email to be returned for about 6 weeks, you could do that too. And you can always subscribe, like, share. We love the reviews. And as always, you can tell your smart devices to play the Unprofessional Engineering Podcast.
My goodness, Luke, you had just ended with the Hogs Head /butt /peck / all that stuff. I'm going to keep with the animal theme here and go with a couple more. There's the Ox Gang.
It's a unit, that one.
Yeah, it's a unit measuring this is so weird. Area of land approximately equivalent to 15 acres, or the amount of land that a farmer could plow with one single ox in one season. So apparently each ox is good for plowing 15 acres of land in a season. Interesting. Another animal related, I like that you just like agree, like, yeah, sure, that's interesting. Another animal related one, the flock. So, like when they say like flock of seagulls, like not just the sweet hairdo that we should do, but it's actually a size. A flock is 2 score or 40. So apparently a score is 20 and a flock is 40. So a flock of seagulls would be 40 seagulls.
I have one in my oddball category that is animal. That's an
animal?
Related.
Oh, I'd love to hear it.
It is a mother cow index.
I had that.
Did you see that one?
Yeah.
So this is the measure. It measures the number of pregnant cows an acre of land can support. And
why do we need this?
My guess is if you're a farmer and you got like 20 pregnant cows, do you need an acre each for them to get all the newts? So there's probably some real science to this, but someone has to sit there and like think about the food that's available to these mother cows, because they probably need more nutrients than a non-pregnant cow. And then they need to figure out, are they getting enough? Are they getting too much? And then how much space do they need? And it's just so crazy that is an actual unit of measure.
I agree. Along the same line, there's the cow's grass, which is equal to the amount of land that could produce enough grass to support one cow. Again, like, couldn't you just say acres? But that's fine. And then the last, I had 2. I'm going to skip one. There's a barn. Did you see barn as well?
I did. I didn't read
animal
what it was.
Related. The nuclear physicists liked this one. They named it. They define a barn, like from the saying as big as a barn, as the cross section of an atomic nucleus. So it's 10 to the minus 28 square meters. So
it's the opposite of big as a barn.
Right. That's what's
ironic
about it. Yes.
I get it.
A shed, on the other hand, is defined as 10 to the minus 24th barns. And an outhouse is defined as 10 to the minus 6 barn.
They can't use these in an equation or in a paper somewhere.
I don't think so. I don't think so. The last animal one that I had was the donkey power. Did you see donkey power?
Every picture had a donkey on a cart where the cart was tipping and
tipping it up. Yeah. They call it a playful engineering unit. It's 250 watts, which is approximately 1/3 of a horsepower. Which makes sense, right?
I was under the impression that donkeys were like super strong. Like they could like carry, they're pack animals. They put all kinds of, I would think a donkey would be stronger. Like an equivalent donkey to a horse would be stronger, right?
I don't know, man. Like, I thought they were strong too. They get packed up with all that stuff.
Yeah, they carry
but maybe they like carry more, but maybe they can't pull as much. I don't know. What do I know?
Yeah.
You had mentioned a hand in the other one,
yes,
measuring horses and whatnot. Did you see finger is another?
I did not. I missed that one.
So Noah Webster measured the breadth of a finger and nailed it down to 3/4 of an inch. Okay, if you say so. But of course, there's other sorts of fingers out there. Like when you're pouring alcohol, 2 fingers is how much booze you pour for like a shot, right? Or a finger can also be 4.5 inches of cloth to go along with the bolt that you were talking about.
Okay.
Apparently that's a thing. What else do you have going on?
So I have a couple of power units that I wanted to talk about.
Power.
Yeah. So this first one is called a FOE, FOE. This is equal to 10 to the 40th power joules. It's used to measure the energy produced by a supernova. And I think a supernova, if I recall, is like when a sun explodes. I forget what it has something to do with the sun, a supernova, I believe. My crack research. The next one is this one was the weird one, a pirate ninja. Did you see this one?
I did not see a pirate ninja.
So it's pirate ninja. So pirate ninja is a unit to measure power. It's defined as 1 kilowatt hour per soul. So it's used in like Martian days, like on
how many souls
Mars.
Can people have?
No, like days are a soul, like this. So apparently in the book The Martian and the movie, I don't think it was in the movie, they talked about that 1 pirate ninja is equal to 40.6 watts, and he used this over and over again in the movie The Martian.
You love that movie.
And it was a very good movie. Matt Damon's not my favorite actor, but he's all right. But the actual the rover team at the Jet Propulsion Lab, they actually use the term pirate ninjas to discuss the power of things.
Oh, see, I would think that's just straight up made up. So that's awesome that they do that.
It means something. I don't know why it means it, but it does.
Our local news lady, Elena LaQuatra, was really struggling with the word propulsion the other day. They were talking about the lab. I don't know what they were talking about. I forget, but it made me giggle a little bit. I have a few units of measure that I think we've all heard, but maybe we don't exactly know what they mean. You okay with that?
Shoot.
A fortnight, not just that super popular video game, but it actually is 2 weeks or 14 days.
I thought it was 20 for some reason. Yeah, it is 14. You're right.
14. Apparently, it's the 12th century word comes from 14 nights. Fortnight. 14 nights. I don't know. Whatever. A carrot, not like the Bugs Bunny thing. That's the noise it makes eating a carrot.
It is?
Like the diamond.
Oh,
carrot.
Yeah.
Measure how big a diamond is. The unit carat came from the Greek word caratian, meaning a carob bean, which was used as the standard weight in ancient Greece. It's now defined as 200 milligrams. So apparently a 1 carat diamond is 200 milligrams.
That doesn't sound right. It also measures how you make 3 months salary last a lifetime.
But
is that a thing?
3 months?
Is that still what it is?
Like 2 months. Is it 2 months?
I guess it depends on maybe for
mine
you
was
2 months.
Mine was too many months. No. We don't want to get into that. Best worst purchase ever. You mentioned the baker's dozen, and
yes, I did.
Of course, we all know a baker's dozen is 13, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes a baker will throw one in for free. That's a baker's dozen, making 12 a 13, which is awesome. You mentioned a number of ways that this came about, but the story that I read was they didn't really do this out of the goodness of their heart or to make up for anything that got eaten along the way. The practice came into play in the 13th century when a medieval English law showed up that made it so bakers could be punished by getting their hand chopped off with an axe if they were found to be shortchanging a customer. And so they were like, oh crap, I don't want my hand cut off. So they did everything they could to avoid it, taking it to the extreme of tossing in a whole extra loaf of bread to make sure that they weren't shortchanging anybody.
Wow.
Now, that's what the internet's told me, so it's for sure true. But that's a pretty cool story if it is.
So if I go to Einstein's and they short me one bagel when I get my dozen bagels, I can walk up to the person behind the counter and chop off their hand legally.
I mean, at least
is that what you're telling me?
That in England you can do that.
Okay.
So next time we travel to London, we can go cut off some hands. What do you say?
That's a great idea.
What do you have next?
The next one I have is a score, and I've seen this show up a couple of different ones, but this is 20 years, and it's meant to. And you've heard like 4 score, and
I've heard this.
Abraham, like one of Abraham Lincoln's
score
addresses.
And Abraham Lincoln years ago.
Yeah, something like that. So apparently, a score
Gettysburg Address, that little
is 20 years. So I am 2 score and 6 years. How quick are you?
2 score and 6 years ago, Luke was born.
So how old am I?
46.
There you go.
Thanks. Look at me getting tested.
How old are you?
I am 2 score minus 1.
Oh, you did the minus.
Okay. See how that is? So what is that?
Pretty slick.
What's that equal?
39.
Yeah, buddy. Good job.
See, I'm good with the maths.
You are. I think we're probably at time that we need to take another break. So let's hear it for Luke's rant.
Okay, so my rant is specifically related to a unit of measure that I want to talk about, and it's the Scoville.
Oh, that was coming up next for me. Yes.
So we can talk about that next. So the other day, my neighbor got this brand new smoker. He's out there doing his thing, smoking all kinds of stuff. He's one of these people that is really into Carolina Reapers.
Oh no.
Which is apparently one of the worst. And I totally forgot about the Reaper thing because he's always trying to get me to try peppers, and I always say no.
You don't like the heats?
I can do sriracha. That's like I can do all the time kind of thing. Gotcha. Anything above that I got to prep for. So he's out there smoking all day. I get back the end of the day. He's like, "Hey, I got some wings on the smoker. Do you want one?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, okay." And I didn't even think about smoking a wing and putting a rub on it. So I take these 2 wings. He doesn't warn me at all. And I take a big old bite, and the smoke smell kind of masked anything else that was on it. And apparently he put some Carolina Reaper rub thingamajigger on it, and it was redonkulous.
Your poor butt.
Oh my goodness. Now apparently it was a smidge that he did over a whole dozen wings, but apparently a smidge of a Carolina Reaper
goes a long way.
And it was I had about 30 minutes where I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And then the next day was pretty bad too. It was I don't know how people do that. And he does this all the time. He loves these Carolina Reapers and these little cherry looking ones. I forget what they're called. So
that's rough.
This is more like a PSA. If you do that sort of stuff and share your food, make sure you tell people, because oh my goodness, it was tragic.
Oh, that sounds bad. I went to a bar in Montreal one time with a bunch of folks that I worked with, and we did that. I don't know if they were Reaper wings, but they were super, super hot. I was literally crying in front of all of my coworkers. They were too, so it made it better. But
yeah, I wasn't crying, but it was bad. It was the hottest thing I've ever eaten.
Nice.
I think.
So can you tell me about the Scoville?
So I've heard of this before, and sure. The Scoville scale. So the Scoville scale and Scoville heat units, SHU, were named after scientist Wilbur Scoville in 1912 for measuring a chili pepper's pungency and heat. So I have a link, and we can probably do this link maybe whenever we post this. But sure, apparently on the low end, the very low end of a Scoville scale is a sweet bell pepper. It's a 0. There's 0 heat. There's actually a little bit of sweetness, at least. And all the scales look kind of different. Okay. At the very super tippy top is this thing called Pepper X, which that just doesn't even sound right. But and that is at 3,180,000 Scoville units.
Ooh, baby.
The Reaper comes in at where's the Reaper? The Carolina Reaper is a couple million. I had it and I lost it.
I don't know about that one, but I did see that pepper spray comes in between 2 and 5.3 million Scoville.
So people eat something that could be pepper spray potentially.
Basically, is what we're hearing here.
You're all about the heat.
Have you ever been pepper sprayed? Yes. I am all about the heats. So I'm getting older and now it's not working out quite as well, but yes.
No, I haven't been pepper sprayed, but I was near someone when a bear spray canister went off, which is similar, if not identical. So
no good.
So what's your favorite pepper, James?
Bell. I think jalapenos they got some spice, but they're really tasty as well.
Yeah,
you can like smoke them and fill them with cheese or meat. Like I like that.
So the jalapeno, I think you're pronouncing it wrong.
Jalapeno, yes, my bad.
The jalapeno is somewhere in like the 6,000 to 8,000 range. It varies.
That's not bad. It's like a little baby.
It's not terrible.
Yeah, that's my favorite. I think. Proof. Have you heard of proof before, Luke?
I don't think I have. I must have missed this one.
With alcohol.
I got you.
A bottle of liquor, 100 proof, 80 proof, vodka-ish. I think vodka's 80. In the 18th century, though, before hydrometers were a thing, people used to prove that their alcohol wasn't watered down by using a gunpowder proof. The alcohol and gunpowder were mixed in equal proportion, then ignited. If the mixture burned, then it is proof that the alcohol wasn't diluted.
That's interesting.
Today, proof liquor is defined as containing 50% of alcohol by volume. So 100 proof whiskey contains 50% alcohol. And I think vodka is 80 proof usually.
Yeah.
You don't like
yuck
vodka or just the whole
idea? Liquors in general were never my thing.
Okay, fair enough. That makes sense. There was another one I wanted to mention. You said something about, I thought you said something about odor at one point, but the unit I wanted to mention is the OLF, because I think it's a funny word, OLF. They're used for measuring air quality of indoor spaces, like office spaces.
Mm-hmm.
One OLF is basically the amount of odor of one standard person. Now, I don't exactly know what a standard person
good
is.
Or bad? What if you just took a shower?
Well, so I didn't know what it was, so I looked up what one standard person is. The OLF standard is a person with skin area of 1.8 meters square meters who bathes 0.7 times per day. 0.7, that's the average? I don't think so. That's terrible. Yeah, and is seated comfortably in a comfortable temperature. So you're not sweaty, you've showered relatively recently, you're not too stinky, but you're a little stinky. If the person becomes slightly active, it rises to 5 OLFs. A heavy smoker gives off 25 OLFs while smoking and 6 while not smoking. It was introduced by a Danish professor, P. Olfanger. So the name Ulf was derived from the Latin word, not only for his name, but the Latin word olfactus, meaning smelled. So like your olfactory senses all comes together and makes sense now.
Growing up, my parents' car was giving off quite a few Ulfs. Yeah. This was back in the day before like people really, I think they knew how bad smoking was. They just didn't care. So like we had no seatbelts on in the winter time. Windows would be up and both my parents would be chain smoking and we'd be sitting in the back, like laying on the seats and like playing with dominoes and Legos. I love it. Very unsafe.
A few more I want to get through before the end, where I just have some made up units. One is the Hobbit. It's a unit of volume or weight formerly used in Wales, equal to 2.5 bushels.
Interesting.
I love hobbits, so I had to throw that one in there. Another one is the sheppy, or I guess sheepy maybe. It's equal to 7/8 of a mile, which is the closest distance at which a sheep remains picturesque. Speaking
of sheep, did you know what a shake is?
A shake? I do, but go ahead and tell me.
I'm fairly certain it's like is it 100th of a second? And it's the shake of a lamb's tail. What's the time
I'd have to go look it up. But it's 10 nanoseconds.
Yeah, 10 nanoseconds. And apparently that's how quickly a lamb's tail shakes. That's where like in 2 shakes I'll be there, and it's a super quick time.
So you're never actually there that quickly.
Exactly. So I have 2 that are real. So I'll do these before you get to your made up ones. And you probably saw this one, the Wheaton.
I
Did
saw
you come
the
across
Wheaton.
the Wheaton?
Yes.
So
I still feel like it's made up, but yes, go ahead.
But it's a good measure.
Real. It's real.
So one Wheaton amounts to 500,000 followers on Twitter. This unit is named after Will Wheaton, who was on Star Trek, and he was always what's his name's nemesis on the Big Bang, and he's like super active on Twitter. So we do not have a Wheaton of followers on our Twitter.
Our Twitter game is not strong. But fun fact for everyone out there, we are getting our first ever unpaid unprofessional engineering intern in August, and hopefully she can up our Twitter game. Boom.
You never even told me this.
Yeah, you were out of the office when I found out.
Sorry. And my last one before you jump into your made up ones, this is a Warhol. This one's kind of close to home.
Yeah.
He has there's a whole Warhol museum here in Pittsburgh, but Andy Warhol is famous for saying everybody has 15 minutes of fame. And a Warhol is that it's a measure of 15 minutes. So if you were a mega Warhol one mega Warhol is 15 million minutes or 28 years. So if you're really popular, you're one mega Warhol.
Makes sense, which you are. One mega Warhol.
I don't know if I'm
our podcast is for sure. No. A few that are actually real that sound made up. The dash, like just a dash of salt, is actually between 1/16 and 1/8 of a teaspoon. A pinch is 1/16 of a teaspoon, which is half a dash technically. Half a pinch is a smidgen, 1/32 of a teaspoon. And then there's a drop. One drop is 1/480th of a fluid ounce, or 0.05 milliliters.
Interesting.
So some made up ones, Luke, would be... So I put the Wheaton in there. There's the Warhol you mentioned, the Big Mac index. Did you see the Big Mac?
I did not see the Big Mac index. It's
basically purchasing power parity that they are referencing. So how much, like the Big Mac index compares the purchasing power of a country measured in terms of the cost of a Big Mac hamburger. Makes sense?
You could pick anything that they could purchase. It could be a Pepsi.
But like everyone knows what a Big Mac is, right?
Yeah.
The next one, my wife said we're going to get yelled at for even mentioning this. This is from Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew. Do you remember them from like Loveline and The Man Show?
I've heard of it before.
They coined a phrase on Loveline, Hobo Power, which measures how bad something smells. It ranges from 0 to 100. Anything near 100 Hobo Power would smell bad enough that it causes death by asphyxiation. And they said, quote, a robust fart is about 13 hobos. So there you go. Yep. Mega Fonzie. It's a coolness factor. The mega Fonzie is a unit of measure to find an object's coolness. Stop laughing.
I'm sorry.
It's invented by Professor Farnsworth on Futurama. I love Futurama. One Fonzie is the amount of coolness a character Fonzie from Happy Days had. So very cool.
How obviously. Many Fonzies am I then?
Oh my God, like 7.
At least.
Easy. There's also a Sagan, which obviously has to do with the billions and billions of stars. A Sagan is defined as at least 4 billion. And then there's a Twain, which is
Mark Twain.
Exactly. So if you're thinking Mark Twain, you are correct. So Mark Twain, Samuel Clemens, apparently his real name, right? Worked on as a steamboat pilot on the Mississippi and got his pen name because Mark Twain was what river boatmen would yell out when they measured the depth of the river. It meant that the depth is 2 fathoms. So again, 12 feet, back to our fathom talk, the minimum depth required for boats. Boom. Think about that.
I never heard of that one before.
That's all I have for made up ones, but I thought we could take like 1 minute to just name our favorite ones.
Okay.
Our favorite units from the 2 episodes.
So both episodes, I have to go with, and I came out of the gate with this one on episode 1, the beard second. I think is
that's really strong.
It's strong. It's a good one. So that's probably my number 1. And if I had to pick a second one, it would be the where was it? It would have to be the smallest detectable movement of a computer mouse. It's somewhere around
we didn't even mention it.
1/10 of a millimeter, and it's called a Mickey. I think we mentioned that in the first episode. I think so. Those are probably my 2 favorite ones. I think
I love the beard second. I had it listed. I love Hobbit just because I love Hobbits, but I'm not going to go with that one. I'm going to go with Megadeth as one of mine.
That's a good one.
And then, gosh, you mentioned this in the first episode, the Muga Sigili, which is, again, back to the fly and the measure of the unit of a fly.
Yes.
Gosh, great name and just an obscure
How did you pronounce it?
Muga Sigili.
So you saw like a pronunciation of it? So
I went to the how do you say video and listened to it because
okay, because I was nowhere close. I was calling it like a mugga guggalo.
Yeah, well, it's messed up. Anywho, that's my two favorites.
Okay, nice.
I really loved these episodes, Luke. I don't know how much engineering's involved, but man, did I love them.
I think we need a measure of unit for how good our show is.
Oh my!
Like a UP.
How about you all write in with what we should name the UP, the Unprofessional Engineering
Coolness Quotient.
There we go. If you have an answer for us, why don't you email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com? And until next time,
see it.